Sunday show. Before we get into the show, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This podcast is sponsored by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boot Crew Media, located at 918 Poydras Street by the Superdome. Give them a call at 504-523-5413. If you or someone you know has been involved in an accident, and be sure to mention we sent you. Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Propels Talk. Exciting show tonight. I'm actually really excited. I got Christian Clark joining the show. Lito in studio, Chaz virtual. Chaz, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, man. Excited about tonight's broadcast.
I'm very excited. I'm really excited about tonight. Lito, go ahead.
Same, man. I got questions. A lot of unanswered things in the piece that he put out. A lot of dancing around.
Multiple pieces. We're gonna get into the Aaron Nelson stuff. We're gonna get into the Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson stuff. We're gonna get into all that. But before we get into that, we got to talk about what we've been wanting. We've been wanting change of the coaching staff. Leo, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to get to Chaz. Borrego hired.
Yeah.
James Borrego, former head coach of Charlotte Hornets. We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
We've been needing a former head coach, and we've been needing X's and O's guys. He checks both of those boxes off. Now, I know a lot of people say, 28th in offensive rating, so on and so forth. There are a lot of stats there. But one thing, watching some film today, I like his philosophy of off-ball movement. I like how he uses bigs as screeners. I like how he uses shooting. He'll have misdirection one way, he'll come back another way. This is the right step in the direction, in my opinion, for Coach Willie Green, because he needs one of those guys, and he got it. And him and Griffin, they made it a priority to get Borrego. They wanted him. They've been wanting him since day one. They got him. What are your thoughts on the hire?
I think that it's a good hire. I think having an offensive mind, I mean, next to Willie versus what you saw with him last year, coaching with him last year is definitely a help to Willie and us in general. I think Borrego, I think, was eighth in offensive rating.
In his last year.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at, I think, depending on how they play this Kyra, this Kyra thing, and the other young guys going forward, I think this could provide some sort of stability for them as well. You saw him thrive. You saw LaMelo thrive under him. You saw what's his name?
Rozier. He's had Rozier. I did a list. So he had Rozier. He had Ball. He had Kemba, Gordon Hayward, and some others.
And you saw the ascension of Miles Bridges, like right before he had that awesome year. I think the year before last.
Yeah,
you saw him take that step. So it seems like Borrego can get to the ear of young guys, and he has the mental dexterity to kind of think of putting them in positions where they can be successful. I mean, there are cons.
Of course, there's always cons.
But luckily, I want to say this, luckily, though, the cons won't apply to us because he's not the coach.
And that's, I'm glad you said that, Chaz, because I want to get to you about this, right? Some of his cons where he was a horrific defensive coach. Well, that doesn't matter because you got Willie Green and Collins to handle that. He didn't really have much in Charlotte, Chaz. Like, you come into this situation and you come in with Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Trey Murphy. I think those four guys offensively are better than any player he's ever had in Charlotte. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree, but I certainly hope all four aren't returning.
Wait, hold up. Why do you disagree with that, though?
No, I think I said I agree.
You agree. I'm sorry. I must have misheard you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I may have misspoke, but one thing I didn't misspeak about, I certainly hope all four of those gentlemen you just named don't return. But that being the case, I think it's a good first move. I like it as an isolated move. It does have its cons. Like I worry about his rotations. I think one thing I am concerned about is Willie Green having another guy who's a player's coach type guy on the bench and who has questionable rotations in the past. Offensively, I think the man's exceptional at what he does. I never wanted him to leave when he originally left the coaching staff, and he went on to have success in Charlotte. He had ups and downs in Orlando, I believe he was at for a while. But I think he's a good coach. I just hope he isn't joining the staff alone. I hope this is the first move and in I hope this is the first domino to fall in addition to the coaching staff.
Do you think so? I know you're gonna ask this to Christian, but there was never any mention of Casey Hill. So what is that it for Casey Hill? Like, is he off the staff? Did I stump you that question? Because there's no mention that he's been released, right? Or I mean, I don't know if he's in a contract here, but there was no
mention that he got fired. There was no
mention of that.
No mention Nelson got fired.
No.
So I think the question is Casey Hill still on the staff?
There's no way.
I mean, I hope. Are we talking like?
What do you mean? Yeah,
we're
talking.
He don't need to be on the staff. Like, I ain't seen nothing on him in his. I haven't seen any of his gifts be a reason to retain him.
Yeah.
What would be the reason to keep him? He had limited offensive integration, and I get who was hurt. I know who wasn't out. But it felt like very stagnant, and I think the main thing though, like regardless, is it was inconsistent in the scheme. Whatever the scheme was, we really don't know. Like, you tell us 0.5, and then you don't really play that. So I don't know if that's.
Do you think that's because he never really had a consistent starting lineup? Is that like if we're looking at it both ways, right? Do you think, okay, well, if we give Casey,
I'm gonna answer this question. I think James Borrego is a better offensive mind than Casey Hill.
100%. This is an upgrade. Chaz, there's no way you have to agree with that. This is an upgrade.
Yeah, I think it's a clear upgrade. I do think that as far as the offense's performance this past season, as it pertains to Casey Hill specifically, a rising tide lifts all boats. And you got a person like Zion, and Herb, when he has some of those crazy outputs, he has 30 plus games. I was looking at some Trey highlights the other day, Trey scoring 30 plus points on 2 made 3-point attempts. Like, that's, when you have things like that happening, it's going to make the offense look a little better than it probably is normally. But I don't think anyone can say that Casey Hill did a good job. Like, I think this is a clear upgrade.
Yeah.
It's a clear upgrade. And that's what we wanted to see from Griffin. So I guess we got to get to our next topic, right? And so, Chaz, we'll start with you because it's one of your topics you want to talk about. Has Griff reached his breaking point? And what we mean by that is, and we're going to ask this to Christian too, but is this kind of a do or die season for Griff? I feel like this is different from other years. Like, there's been multiple, and a lot have been, released to the public. There have been multiple changes already.
Yeah.
Do you think he's reached his breaking point?
I think, yeah, in certain instances, some things remain to be seen. I need to know. I'm not fully convinced yet, because I think everything he's done so far, that's been the low hanging fruit. You know what I'm saying? Those have been the easy adjustments. You know what I'm saying? Aside from, his history with, Nelson and, their relationship, I think those were the easy things to make, hiring Borrego, removing, Nelson. I don't want to say firing, but removing Nelson. He spoke about the analytics department not being good enough. You saw at the end of the season that analytics guy isn't here anymore. There's certain things where you just like, all right, that's the easy part. But the issue I'm having is, bro, your breaking point should have been last year, like last offseason. Everything to me seems like it's just a day late and a dollar short. You could still turn this thing around, but you don't want to, wait till you're desperate to start making some of these adjustments.
Well, I think he's reached that point now, Chaz. You make a good point. We talked about, and we talked about upgrading the roster last year, and it's easy saying, we're playing Monday quarterback and things like that, and hindsight's 2020. But he made a tough decision with Nelson, and like a lot of people don't realize the relationship that Griff and Nelly had. Like, we're talking really close friends. We're talking he got approved of a $4 million renovation of the practice facility. He had a lot of say in, burst and things like that and all that. Like, Griffin made that move. Whether people like it or not, he made the move. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think more moves are coming, or do you think that includes staff that includes player, roster, et cetera. Do you think more moves are coming?
I hope so.
What would you like to see?
I mean, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see roster turnover from, the bottom. Well, let me say this: depending on what they decide to do with this pick, how they chose to play the draft, I think I can give you from then like what I want to see on the roster.
Yeah.
I think you got to look at the bottom half of the roster though. The Hernan Gomez is on back.
Hayes, Hernan Gomez, Garrett Temple. Garrett Temple's still on the Kyra. I mean, there's 4 guys right there.
I think you got to look at them and make them playable players. They gotta be rotation guys. It can't be I'm a play undermanned at center and we just go get killed on the glass and be even weaker interior wise. I think we should look at the whole spectrum of the team. He said changes top to bottom. I was hoping Trajan would get the New York, the DC job. I feel like
I feel like you want to say something.
I do. I'm trying to be politically correct.
Go ahead.
You brought me Nico Melli.
Didi Lozada.
You brought me Didi Lozada.
Dyson Daniels.
I really don't see I thought his strength was in discovering overseas talent.
Mm-hmm.
But like you talked Nico Melli up like he was gonna be like
he was supposed to be the guy.
He's supposed to be the guy.
He didn't even find another team after us. Like
he's not an NBA player.
And he was on steroids.
Was he really?
No, I'm talking about Didi. My bad. I mean Didi was on steroids. And
right.
He couldn't stick around.
Hey, is he still in Portland?
Nah, I don't think so.
Man, Didi back in Brazil.
He's done too. Yeah. And who's Carlo, right? Chaz. I mean, I know. Listen,
my son.
A lot of people have been talking about Carlo. Chaz, you're big on him. Do you like him a lot? Is there a chance that he can be?
Is he better than Jackson Hayes?
I think he's probably. I think they're at least comparable, which is bad because you're talking about a 4th-year professional player going into his 5th professional year and comparing him to an overseas prospect. Talking about a guy you picked 8 and comparing him to an overseas prospect. I like Carlo because I like his ability to, as a potential rim defender, athleticism off the charts. But again, it's an overseas prospect. You know what I'm saying? He's not facing, the creme de la creme over there. But those are some of the improvements I would like to see. I would have liked to see Trajan. Like when we talk about Griff's breaking point, this is the 2nd season where we've seen Trajan kind of, go out there and look for other jobs. And it's like, motherfucker flunking these interviews. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's happening, but they're like, nah, we're going to go in another direction on these interviews. So I don't know if that's, a credit to his interviewing skills or maybe, I'm sure he's not just deciding to stay with the Pelicans. So when I speak about Griff being in his breaking point, I wonder if Griff is stealth firing people because he didn't fire Nelson. He didn't fire the analytics guy. The analytics guy just went and got another job at Alabama somewhere. He's not like, publicly firing people officially.
Smart.
Like Collins, I'm it's a little bit confusing to what Collins' actual role is, but he went and interviewed for the Pistons job, after 1 season, and you heard Griff allude to, we with the talent we do have, are we giving them the opportunity to be on the floor and contribute? Collins has some say in the rotations and things of that nature. So it's just interesting to me when you see some of these people interview for other jobs and they're you're like, oh, wouldn't you want to keep them? It's like, nah, you need to go find something else, brother.
Yeah, I mean, Willie, I feel like me and Lito were just talking about the Chaz. I think this was Case-Hill was the last. Case-Hill and Corey Brewer and Teaspoon, the last 3 from the Stan Van Gundy era. And I want Brewer to stay.
You got Vincent as well.
I hear great.
Vincent.
Well, Vincent's been
Yeah,
here.
He's been here. Yeah.
No, but I want Brewer to stay. I think
Go ahead.
Teaspoon-
Go ahead.
I think Teaspoon's she's still here, I think.
Yeah, she's still here.
Right. And Brewer's definitely here.
Yeah.
And Casey Hill was the last one on the front row bench.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we the only team in the NBA with like a shooting doctor?
Nah.
No way.
Are we the only team?
The Spurs have one.
Is he as good as Fred Vincent?
That's what they say. I mean, that's the guy who was supposedly working with DeJounte, and he was like, well, you couldn't fix DeJounte. And I'm like, respect to Fred, but Fred got like one success story.
I mean,
Fred living off Lonzo. Like, you know
could be a pretty big success story.
Well, I guess
I
one
ain't
of
seen Lonzo in 2 years.
Wait, listen, you gotta give his props to, I guess, Trey Murphy, right? Or is Trey what?
I mean, that was his skill. That's what he came.
He came into the league.
He came here ready.
I'm trying.
I'll give you.
What about Brandon? What about Brandon?
Brandon don't shoot threes.
Yeah, Brandon.
No, but since he's gotten here, he's gotten better at shooting threes. You got to give him credit there.
He shot 39% on 2 attempts last year, and before that, he shot like 33% or like 4 attempts.
I'm not dissing Coach Vincent. I think
it's not his fault.
Yeah. Dope. You know what I'm saying? But I don't. I feel like we put a lot of cachet into that in the saying what we got. Oh, Fred could fix him.
Yep.
I don't know.
Chaz, do you think if we have another year like this, you think Griff's done? Or do you think that he's got a couple more years left?
I think if he has another year, see, it depends on how you determine success this year. I think anything less than a playoff than a series victory this year, I think Griff is in his lame duck year next year. It don't really make no sense to fire him. At that point, you probably just keep him there and you kind of bring in maybe a traditional GM and let the traditional GM have all the decision-making powers. I think you do him like Dale Demps. You don't really, like, I'm not going to let you make any major trades because you keep dropping the ball. But that's why I think it's so critical this year where, like, you know, with teaspoons and you know, credit to Fred Vincent, but like, you know, like the Fred Vincent's and just all that, you got to kind of just get all that out the building. Like all the shit that I just got to be honest. Look, all the stuff that's for appearances and political reasons and all these things, or we want a good human being, like, yeah, whatever. Like, then you're not getting results. You know what I'm saying? You need this is about results. This is a result-driven business. So you got to get all them people out the paint. It's time to move on. You know what I'm saying? And if they just don't
want to move on from Vincent.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I ain't really. If your job here, if what you known for is making hamburgers, but all the hamburgers nasty, they burnt, then what the fuck I need you for? Like, why you here? Dyson can't shoot. Herb can't really shoot. Brandon can't really shoot. Zion doesn't shoot. Josh Richardson was hit. Well, I can't say Josh Richardson because he didn't really work with him. But Jose can't really. He ain't no amazing marksman or nothing like that. And some idiot is gonna bring up, oh, Jose hit 8 threes in one game. Like, all right, motherfucker. Like, who cares? Like, what? Who cares? Like,
I think Vince is very well respected throughout the league. I don't think he's really. Can I say something? I don't think that I think the roster construction really actually does a disservice to Fred Vincent.
But that's why you hire guys like Aaron Nelson and Fred Vincent.
No, but Chaz, you got to be able to get like guys that can actually shoot the ball. I mean, like not everybody can be a project. You can't just go and be like, hey, Najee Marshall, and hey, Jose, and hey, you know, even Zion or whatever. Like, you can't give them 6 projects to work on. But
that's contradictory of, all right, so how come when everybody leave, they just magically become like Drew Holiday left? He's a better shooter. Josh
all right,
a bit of a better shooter.
Besides Drew.
Because at a certain point, it's like, all right, look, the reason you hire an Aaron Nelson is so you can take chances on guys who kind of like have injury history because he's a renowned guy in his field. He's used to, you know, repairing guys and, you know, extracting value out of players who were thought to be broken down. The reason you keep Fred Vincent on your staff is because he's known as the guy who fixed Lonzo's shot. He's known as a guy who works with players and he helps them excel from a shooting standpoint. But if you're not seeing those results, there's no reason to, you know, keep these people necessarily. Now, in Nelson's thing, you know, there's it's a lot more nuance to it. And Fred's thing, yeah, it could be a thing where people just don't want to work with him. But I know you working with Dyson. I know you working with Herb. I know you working with Brandon. I know you was working with Drew. Like, I know these things. And like, what the fuck? Like, you just like,
I feel like, my bad, you done?
No, I'm good, bro.
I feel like, and again, this is no disrespect to Fred, but I particularly, like, for Willie's sake, I just want him to be able to get who he wants to get. I want a clean high. I want a clean sweep of everything that was in place before him. And to be fair to him, because again, if he gonna get the blame, let him buy the groceries, let him make the decisions, and let him make the dishes or decide who's cooking, right? Like, I feel like I think Fred is a well-respected shooting coach. I just feel like, is that who Willie Green wants? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
And that was my biggest thing about when Willie Green got the job 2 years ago. He had to inherit all these people. He only got to bring Chaz one person over. It was Collins. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. So then throughout the last couple of, that's why I didn't think last year, I know we were pretty tough on Willie, but shit, he didn't have his guys, man. Like, this is his guy now. This is his guy, Borrego.
Right.
Collins is his guy, right? Now Vincent, whatever. I mean, he's the fourth assistant. Like,
he had the analytics dude too, I think.
He brought in an analytics dude from Golden State as well. Not the guy that
not the
it's some other guy. That's his guy as well.
Hold up. Is this his guy though? Is Borrego his guy, or did Griff?
This is his guy.
All right, cool. I want Griff to ease up on Willie. I want Griff to not be Jerry Jones, and I want him to let Willie do his thing.
Do you think that's at least fair? I agree, Chaz. Like, Griffin's got to stop micromanaging this whole thing. Like, let Willie just be Willie. Let him get his guys in. I feel like the Sam Van Gundy firing's like finally over with. Like, I know they're still paying, I think, one more year, but like the rest of the assistant coaches are gone. Like, I think this is finally a step in the right direction that Willie Green is finally getting his guys.
Yeah. I think everyone deserves a fair chance to succeed or fail, right? For Willie, especially as the head coach. And he hasn't had all of his horses, like, as far as even players on the floor, right?
Right.
Some things I think are independent of you not having a good staff around you, though. Timeout management, some of the rotations, just understanding of time and situation, just certain things. Messaging, I think certain things are independent of that, right? And as far as Griff micromanaging, and we'll talk about this more when Christian comes on the show, but it's a little bit of contradiction going on because
with who?
With just like the narrative around it, like the last, like maybe we've been 4 years, last 4 years, right? Because when you look at the Brandon and Zion situation, and then when you look at Griff with maybe some of the moves that he's made and stuff like that, it's like on one end, it seems like Griff is this dictator, and on the other end, it seems like the tail is wagging the dog.
Hey, that's
so
true.
It's like either he's a warden or he isn't. Like, so that's why I don't really I sometimes I'm kind of like if Griff said I gave him the answers to the test and he failed, right? And I'm like, well, they have a pretty good roster. Evan Nishra had a pretty good roster. And or you say I gave Willie Green the answers to or he didn't say this, but what I'm saying, if he was to say I gave Willie Green the answers to some of these questions and he still failed in some instances, I would say, well, yeah, that roster wasn't bad enough for you to be this bad in certain points.
I want to make this point, because you talk about changes from top to bottom, and Chaz brings up contradicting himself. He said changes from top to bottom, right? That was word for word.
That's what he said.
And then he said, I don't know if it was a week later, but then he said, we're gonna make tweaks.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear that one.
I don't want tweaks.
I thought that was
y'all didn't hear that.
Nah, that was
don't remember that
interview, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like he's like, no. He said top to bottom, and then like a couple weeks later, or like maybe a week later, he said tweaks.
I didn't hear that. I never saw that.
I promise, I ain't hear that.
I ain't seen it at all.
What do you?
Because I'd have definitely had something to say about that.
Yeah, because that's backtrack. Like a week later, backtrack.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just based on everything Chad said, you said, I said, like, I know we talking about Griff on the high seat, and I do think the seat is a little high for Griff personally. But do you think, if this don't work out this season, you're looking at a change in head coaching?
Well, We're going to get Christian on here after this commercial break. Let's hear from our sponsors from the Birdsall Law Firm. This podcast is sponsored by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boot Crew Media. Birdsall Law Firm is a family practice that has been a staple in the greater New Orleans area since 1963. Specializing in automobile accidents and slip and falls for the past 60 years, you can trust the Birdsall Law Firm to handle your claim professionally while treating you like family in the process. The Birdsall Law Firm is located at 918 Poydras Street near the Superdome. Give them a call today at 504-523-5413 or message them on Instagram if you or someone you know has been involved in an accident. Be sure to mention Boot Crew Media sent you to get your free consultation today. Once again, you can reach them at 504-523-5413. Birdsall Law Firm, official injury lawyers of Propels Talk. Going to bring on Christian Clark, reporter for NOLA.com, and the host from the Wing podcast. Catch his show on YouTube or any major streaming platform. Christian, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining the show.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Christian, what's up, man?
First off, great job over the last week, man. I've really been enjoying your articles. We're gonna get right into it. I guess I'll start off with the questions, but you see now Griff with the shakeup of the medical staff. He's hiring Borrego. Do you feel like he's feeling the heat a little bit this offseason?
Ooh, a spicy one, like right off the bat here. Yeah, I would say that the seat is definitely not hot, but I would say, yeah, it is increased in temperature by a few degrees. I mean, I feel like there's nothing he could do where it's like he's not in charge of this team going into next season. But I mean, my kind of feeling is next season better go well. I mean, there better be some results. I mean, my kind of read on the last 4 years is I actually do think there's been organizational progress and they're a better organization than they were 4 years ago, but it just has not translated into winning the way anyone would have liked.
Why do you think that? And I agree with you, Christian. I agree that the organization is in a better spot than it was 4 or 5 years ago, but is that basically just because Zion and Brandon can't consistently stay on the court?
Yeah, to me, that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think I've said it 10 million times since the season ended, but since Willie Green became the head coach of this team, Zion and Brandon have played 12 games together. I mean, to me, that's the most significant statistic of the Willie Green era so far. They just can't get their best two players on the floor at the same time, unfortunately. And it starts there with me. Like, I think when I look at this roster and everyone, if everyone can actually play, like, I think it's a pretty good roster. I mean, I felt great about this roster, going into the start of last season. And I felt like, that was like, we kind of saw why those first couple of months. I mean, that was a really nice team. I think there's some really nice role players on this roster. I mean, Trey Murphy's already a good role player. He's got a chance to become something more than that. But it's just theoretical, like if the Brooklyn Nets were the greatest theoretical team of all time, this is the greatest theoretical young core of all time.
Christian, man, what's up? So going off the temperature of the article about how some of the players in the locker room were frustrated with Brandon and his unwillingness to play through what they perceived as minor injuries. Do you think there's a real possibility that Brandon gets moved this summer?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess starting out with like the first part of that, I mean, I think that I can say with certainty, like there were definitely a handful of guys who were frustrated. I think some of the guys were on Brandon's side. I mean, so I don't think it was like everybody or anything like that. And the other thing too is only Brandon knows what's going on in his foot. I mean, I can't tell you definitively what he's feeling in his foot. I can just tell you what other, some other people who think about it. But I will say, just generally, I don't get the sense that the Pelicans are 100% locked into the CJ, BI, Zion trio going into next season. Now, if I had to bet on it today, I would say that all three of those guys are back. I think that's like, the most likely outcome, but I do not get the sense that they are wedded to that, number one, because of like the unreliability issues from Zion and Brandon the past 2 seasons. And number two, I think the way the CBA changed some things, I think it's going to be kind of an environment where you can have 2 really high paid guys and then you got to fill it out with role players. I just think in the environment moving forward, it's going to be difficult to have 3 guys making 25, 30 mil, which CJ, Brandon, and Zion are all going to be making the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think they definitely have decisions to make. Just to follow up on that, at the exit interviews, Griff promised changes top to bottom on the throughout the organization. My question is, so we see that a restructuring happened in the training department. We see Borrego hired on the coaching staff, but my question is, as far as like the restructuring of the training department, does that mean like Nelson is no longer with the organization? And with the hiring of Borrego, does that mean that Casey Hill is gone? Because there's been no mention of Casey Hill or Nelson's actual like tenure with the team going forward, or his position.
I'm honestly not sure on the Casey Hill thing. I've kind of heard conflicting things, and I don't know anything definitively. As far as the Aaron Nelson issue goes, whether he is around the team next year, it kind of just depends on who you talk to. I mean, I had a couple people or generally give me pretty good information, say like they would be surprised if he's around the team next year. But when you talk to like the people in charge of the team, you're not getting as firm of an answer. From my understanding, it will be if he's back with the team next year, it'll be with a different title. I think he will not have as much power if he's around the team next year. He was given an incredible amount of power when he came in 4 years ago. 2 of the 3 head coaches he's worked with hated the amount of power he had and did not like working with him at all. I reached out to Aaron directly and just asked him for a comment like, hey man, what do you want to say about this situation? I asked him, what do you expect your role to be going forward with this team? And he just told me, he's basically still working out those details with the team. So, that's straight from the horse's mouth of not exactly sure at this point in time.
Chaz, go ahead.
Christian, man, first I want to compliment you on you take a lot of risk, man, and I'm sure it has to get annoying at some point. People questioning your journalistic integrity when you do this for real. I don't personally consider myself to be a media member, but you as an actual media member and dealing with some of the scrutiny you face with, it's just Twitter, but still, it has to get tiresome at some point. But so I want to compliment you on your journalistic integrity. But secondly, for me, it's kind of lends to Lito's point. I don't see a point in keeping this trio together. I think just from a logistical standpoint, when Brandon's contract rapidly expiring, he's probably at peak value this offseason, and you really don't know what's going to happen going into next season. And the results haven't really been there when you've seen, Zion getting injured is kind of like a thing at this point. So you have to kind of presume that he's going to miss at minimum 10 to 20 games next year. You have to kind of presume it. But he's such an elite talent. You're going to hold on to that talent, especially considering he's in the first year of his 5-year extension with no options versus Brandon, who's, again, is on a 2-year contract, and who knows if he even wants to come back. So in your estimation, do you think it's even worth keeping this trio together when you look at everything in totality?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make a bad deal or anything, and I wouldn't say we got to send Brandon out just to send him out and like just get back crap or anything. I mean, I think I would only do it if it was a deal I felt good about, definitely. And I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of conflicted about it because like his team has been to, some of these main guys have been together for 4 years. Then the highest they finished in the Western Conference is 9th place, and I just think like. It looks great on paper, but like there's only so many times you can bring a core back and they fail, where it just becomes kind of who you are without shaking things up. I mean, on the other hand too, it's like these dudes are both so young. I mean, what is Brandon? 25, 26. Zion is 21, 22. I mean, like early 20s and mid 20s. And it's not really a question for either of them with talent to me. Like they both have incredible talent. I mean, I think Zion is just staying healthy, and Brandon is a mentality thing to me. It's like if you can bottle what you did those last 15 games of the regular season and do that more consistently over an 82 game season, like, you're everything I want on this team. I mean, I feel like those guys have the talent to be like the best player and the second best player in a championship team. But like, the questions are work ethic, mentality, like commitment to being a professional. Those are all the things I don't know.
And one quick follow, because we spoke about this prior to you coming on. Sometimes, we hear about Griff as a micromanager in the national media and even somewhat in the local media. But you also hear things about kind of like, Zion kind of calling his own shots in some instances, and even Brandon kind of calling his own shots. So is it like a middle part of that? Because a lot of the times it seems more so like the tail is wagging the dog versus Griff being this super, micromanager guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I think if you talk to Alvin, certainly he would have felt like, Griff is trying to take a little too much control of the situation and let me coach my team. I think like Stan, for the most part, felt like Griff let him do his job. I think he had a lot of issues with Aaron Nelson and how much power he was given, and I guess you could relate that back to Griff. But I mean, from Willie, like, there's never been a peep of, well, he doesn't like working with him. It seems like it's been a pretty good partnership in the 2 years those guys have been together. They seem like they've been pretty aligned. But yeah, I think I would kind of agree with you on like the best two players kind of do what they want a lot of the time. And I think like, maybe like a legitimate gripe is they weren't hard enough on Zion at the very beginning. Like, I don't know if they set expectations for like, hey man, you got to be in this good of shape. Like you got to be getting to practice at this time. I think there's some legitimacy to that. But on the other hand, I mean, he was supposed to be out with that lateral meniscus injury 6 to 8 weeks, and he was out 13 weeks. And part of it was like, well, you got to hit these benchmarks before you come back. He wanted to play. And that, like them trying to be strict about that didn't really work either. So, I mean, I don't know. It's complicated why it has just not worked with Zion, and like why him and Griff have clashed at times. But like those two guys at times have just unfortunately been oil and water. And I don't know. I mean, like, I think Griff, all he can do is like try to put the right environment and get the right coaches around those two guys. And at some point it's like, okay, I think those things are pretty good now. Maybe at the beginning they weren't. Like, I think it's a good roster. I think it's going to be a pretty good staff going into next season. Like, so at some point it's just on the main two guys. Like, y'all got to be stars.
Christian, what are your thoughts on the Borrego hire? And what do you like about him, and what are some cons about him?
Yeah, so I kind of heard that the relationship with Willie Green was one of the driving forces behind this move. James Borrego had coached Willie twice. One as an assistant in New Orleans. He was an assistant on that 2010-11 Hornets team that Monty was in charge of. And then again with the Orlando Magic, James Borrego was the interim coach when Jack Vaughn got fired. That was Willie Green's last season in Orlando. And, I think Willie was 33, 34 or something like that, at the end of his career. And Borrego was playing him. Like, you can go read an old Orlando Sentinel article where it was like, you could tell they were like, oh, Willie Green's like getting heavy rotation minutes right now. And they're asking Borrego about it. So clearly there was a trust there, when it was a player coach relationship, and it still seems like it's a very positive relationship. I thought it was a good hire. I mean, I think they need some help on the offensive end. They finished 20th in points scored per 100 possessions last season. I know the main three guys hardly ever played together. I'd still say that's a pretty disappointing mark. They're retaining Jaron Collins, who I think is a pretty good assistant in this league. He got an interview, to be a finalist for the Detroit Pistons, and he was the guy who ran the defense for the Pelicans last year, which was pretty good. So, I'm looking at this like, all right, you got Willie Green, who I think does a good job of reaching people, and I think overall has done a nice job. Definitely some things he could work on. Jaron Collins, who was the defensive coordinator of a good defense last year, and you got James Borrego coming in to run the offense, and like, I like that. I think that's a strong, like, three-headed monster. As far as your top three guys in the coaching staff.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way I was watching some film. I just like the way there's more off-ball movement. There's more screening. It seems like that is a focal point, and I think that Borrego using Zion, and if JV's here, whatever center's here, and running CJ off and Brandon off, I think is a good fit. But go ahead, Leo.
I wanted to ask you about the draft. Obviously, the Pelicans have the 14th pick, and I just wanted to ask you: have you heard any rumblings of maybe us moving up or down, or have you heard any guys the Pelicans could be linked to as far as like draft wise?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like this is my 4th year covering this team, and I feel like there's always rumblings. Like Griff likes to look at a number of different deals, like a very creative deal maker, I'd say. And like my kind of read on it is they look at a wide range of outcomes and just like consider a lot of things as possibilities. So yeah, I definitely think there's a possibility that 14 could be on the move. I mean, maybe you could attach it with Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe you could attach it with somebody else if you want to do something really splashy. I mean, I could see them trying to go up. I could see them trying to move back, and maybe you trade back to the end of the first round, and you get like more shooting, and you do something different at starting center. So I think there's a wide range of options. I think some guys who are intriguing to me at that spot that I think the Pelicans will at least take a look at: Derek Lively, center out of Duke, CD Sissoko, kid from G League Ignite. I don't think they need any certain one position. Like I could see them going guard, wing, or big, just because there's a lot of pretty good guys at different spots on this roster already. I mean, and to me, they kind of have a type. Like they want to be a big team. Like they like guys who have versatility. They like guys with length. So if they took a guy and he didn't check some of those boxes, I would be surprised. They definitely have a type.
Well, Christian, can I ask, how far up could the Pelicans move? How far up? How far up?
Well, do you guys think the Spurs will trade the number 1 pick? Yeah, probably not.
The two on here right now, Lito and Chaz, are big Scoot guys.
Christian, I actually have something prepared for you because I knew you were coming on. You give me 1 second, because I believe sometimes I'm not sure if you believe in destiny, but there's a lot of parallels to what's happening with the Pelicans and the Charlotte Hornets. Of course, Brandon Ingram was the number 2 pick. Charlotte happens to have the number 2 pick. Brandon Ingram is from North Carolina. Charlotte happens to be in North Carolina. You just hired James Borrego, who happens.
I feel like you guys are trying to say something.
Well, me, I come on and say I don't want to get you in trouble.
Wants to move. I'll tell you this one. Is there any chance that they move up to number 2? Is there any chance?
I've not asked any of them directly if they would. So I can't say one way or the other. I mean, I think I can say with confidence that there are definitely some fans of Scoot Henderson in that front office, and I can understand why. Like, I personally think Scoot is awesome, and I would want him at guard if I was running a team. Like, he's a crazy athlete. Like, he seems like he's got a great mentality. He's been a pro for 2 years already. Like, I just like a lot of different things about him. I mean, he's from the South too. I think he's from the Atlanta area. Yeah. So maybe that helps with like comfortability in New Orleans. But yeah, I think like there's definitely some fans of Scoot in that front office, and there's probably a lot of fans of Scoot. Like, I think dude is sick. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, can I ask you this, Christian? Do you think Griff would survive a reset? Because even when we talk about the 14th pick and looking at guys at 14, I'm like, oh man, you draft a guy at 14, he might not be ready for the next. Like, you got a Dyson Daniels type situation. You drafted this guy 8. Dyson Daniels, Dyson Daniels may not be ready until his second contract potentially because he's so raw. So if you draft a guy at 14, you're hoping to get a Trey Murphy type situation, but more than likely, you'll probably get a guy who needs a couple of years. And we've seen the hesitancy with this coaching staff to play young guys, right away, unless it's the playing game. Then they'll just throw a guy out there, but. Yeah, so I don't even know if Griff. You think Griff survives a reset? He's like, I'm blowing this trio up. Let me go get a guy like Scoot and just kick that salary cap can down the road a little bit.
To me, that's one of the most interesting questions about all of this, and I honestly, I don't know. I mean, like if you're just looking at it, the best two players on this team, you got one of them because you're lucky enough to win the lottery in 2012 and get Anthony Davis, and that didn't work out, and then you traded him, and then the blue chip guy you got back was Brandon Ingram. You got the other one because you won the lottery again. Like this franchise has won two of the best lotteries in the last 15 years. Their best two players are on the roster because of it, and all you have in 4 years is highest you finished is ninth place, and you got 2 playoff wins. Like, just I think that would be difficult to survive where you say, I'm going to take a step back. Like, I think you really want that guy to like be good immediately. And just 19-year-olds very rarely are. But I could also see him, convincing them. I don't know. Like Griff he's a survivor, man. He wriggles out of a lot of stuff. So I would never say like definitively, like, yeah, he's done. Like there's times when I'm like, man, I don't know if he can survive this, where he just gets out of it. So, I listened to the podcast with like Ben Golliver and Andrew Sharp a lot. And Ben Golliver always calls Andrew Sharp like a grease pig. Like he just gets out of situations. And hey, I personally like Griffin. I think he's a good executive, but he's got a little grease pig, man. He just wriggles out of stuff sometimes. And it is impressive. It's impressive.
Christian, man, we can't thank you enough for taking time joining the show, man. Keep up the great work. We love, having you on the show, and we love reading your work, man. So once again, Christian Clark from NOLA.com. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, From the Wing Podcast. Find him on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. So Christian, appreciate you. We're gonna get you out of here before the finals. I know you're about to go watch game 2. Who you got tonight?
Oh, I'm a little worried. I think the Heat are going to come back, and it's going to definitely be. I'll pick Denver. I'll pick Denver, but I think it's going to be competitive. I'm kind of wondering, is Kevin Love just going to start on Jokic, like from the jump here, and just like try to rough him up a little bit and have Bam be that rover?
That was, but it's Spo, man. He's one of the best in the game. So appreciate you, Christian. Thanks for everything, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, man.
Take care. Christian Clark from NOLA.com. Wow, a lot of information. Lito, we'll wrap up here. We got 13 minutes. I can't believe you brought that out. Like
I went to Lowe's today. I just happened to have this.
Dude.
I went to Lowe's today. I was like, hey, I can use that.
Lito, thoughts?
I mean, I feel like he said a lot. I don't even really feel like I had a chance to.
Can I? I'll paraphrase, because I know both of y'all are very excited about this. There are fans in the front office that are fans of Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Did that?
Yeah, I mean, like, does that mean like he's coming to visit? Is he like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is he they go get him in the building and not let him leave? Like, I just wonder, like, what extent do you? How much do you love him?
Was it, who locked the player? Was it DeAndre Jordan? Who locked him in the house?
It was
the Clippers.
Blake Griffin locked him.
Locked him in the house. That's wild.
That's wild. Griff gonna pull a piano out and put it in front of a door.
Yeah,
so can't roll out. No. I mean, I like hearing that though. I mean, I like the mind state that they're on. Like, I don't know what they gonna have to do to get him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know the path to Scoot. I mean, you have additional picks you can always sell. Then also hearing, they're not 100% on the big three.
That was Chaz, that was interesting because he didn't specify a name, right, but he just mentioned the big three. Chaz, what were your thoughts on that?
Just to make it plain, and look, Brandon's my brother. I want Brandon to get as much money as he can get. I want Brandon to get billions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Right? But I just don't want you to get it here. I want you to go somewhere else and succeed and spread your wings and fly like a pelican. But
that's crazy.
like a pelican, right? Because to be totally transparent, man. All right. You're saying that you credit CJ's professionalism. We know Griff and the staff, they probably have even more affinity for CJ after considering how he played through injury this year, setting an example, right? You have a generational talent who, to be real, he been stealing money, but he ain't been stealing a lot of money because he was still on his rookie scale contract. Now, if he go into this 5-year deal with no options and he's stealing money, then now you got a problem. now he's a Chandler Parsons type thief.
Yeah,
you don't want to be Chandler Parsons. So You got that situation, and you got Brandon, who's realistically at peak value right now. You don't know if he even would want to come back as a free agent. He's never really been a free agent before necessarily. He's gonna, and you hear people saying he's being recruited by other teams. He's throwing his weight around a little bit in front office, around the organization, throwing his weight around a little bit. One All-Star appearance, that first year under his last contract, haven't really come close to reaching that level of success again. And, not to his fault. Injuries, sometimes you can't help it, but you can help, playing through some things you've been cleared for. You can't help yourself in that situation. And to final point, let's say Zion goes down this season and Brandon is healthy 82 games. In my opinion, I'm going to say, so what? I think it's still a lottery team.
Not if he plays 82. No.
Okay. No,
because I think that if Brandon gave me, how many did he play? 46 this year?
45.
45. If he gave me, I had this conversation the other day. If he gave me 65, I think they're a top 6 seed. But I know you're a big context guy. I know the Western Conference was down this year. I understand that.
No, context be damned. If they were to reach top 6 this year, context be damned. But you also got to take into account Zion did play 29 games. I'm saying take Zion out of the equation.
Like fully out. Yeah,
take him out of the equation. Brandon, if you moved on from Zion, Brandon is your best player. This team's terrible. Like, this is not a good team. And that's just the...
I don't want to cut you off, Chaz.
No, go ahead.
Terrible is a strong word. I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they're terrible.
Right.
I think they're average. I think they're terrible.
Okay.
I think Brandon, once again, if Brandon played like he did the last, 3 or 4 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Chaz, the schedule was weak.
No, not on that. He had 2 months off.
No, I know. Whatever. I'm saying screw that. But if Brandon's going to play like that for the last 3 or 4 weeks, like I thought he took it to another level there. You don't think that they could? You still think they're?
I think this team. I think if he played as well as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all season, let's say he played all season well.
Yeah,
this is a play-in team.
Is that his fault or is that more of Rasha?
Nah, it's not totally his fault, but it costs to be the boss. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's why. Yeah, and listen, when you're one of the highest paid players on the team, I understand. Let me get y'all's final thoughts on this. I want to get y'all's final thoughts on this. And shout out once again to Christian Clark, because I think he's a reporter, Chaz, and I'm glad that you said that, because people like give him a hard time. He's doing his job, and he does it at a very high level, in my opinion. Something that the Saints side have, Nick Underhill, and they got Triplett, and they got Jeff Duncan. They got a lot of guys that like really,
Chris Roswell.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, Booker Media. They hold the team accountable, right? And they're not scared to give their thoughts.
Yeah.
Christian does not care. He is going to report what he hears and what he thinks. And most of the time, he's right. So I want to hear your thoughts, Lito, of teammates not liking how Brandon couldn't play through, I guess, minor injuries. Now, also, we can't put ourselves in Brandon Ingram's body.
Yeah.
But what were I thought that was an interesting. What are your thoughts on that? Because, well, let me ask you this. Who do you think was not happy? Because I have a clear answer, and I think it's very obvious.
I think that if I'm not mistaken, it came out that Larry Nance and CJ.
Those are my 2 guys. That's what I would think.
Yeah, like I think that I don't remember when it was, but it came out that Larry Nance, I think in December, had tried to talk him into playing before.
Do you think maybe JV would also be part of that?
I think Griff alluded to that as well.
So you think it'd be JV, Larry? Personally, I think it was JV, Larry, and CJ that were upset, and I think people like the younger guys like Trey, Jose, Jax, like those guys are, as you heard Christian say, like, it's Brandon, it's my guy.
I don't know better.
Yeah.
So is there a little divide? Is there like this little divide right there?
I wouldn't say so.
Do you think it's a big deal?
I mean, I feel like if it's a big deal because I'm busting my ass, and I want you to do the same.
Right.
So yeah, it's a big deal in the terms of, and if we being totally honest, yeah, you saw the 46 games he played. If he'd have played 7 more games,
Top 6.
Yeah, like it would have been a different in the seeding position. You may not have been playing, you know what I'm saying, or you would have got a higher playing seed. I do think it's a big deal. I think that were you asking about Christian Clark?
I don't know what I was asking. I just talked in like circles. I was like, I was talking. I'm just like because Christian did actually just and shout out once again, Christian. He said a lot of stuff there, but I did not want to get off the show and not talk about that because I thought that was an important part of the article, and I want to hear Leo's thought and then we'll get Chaz's thoughts on. Do you think that's a big deal moving into the offseason and then moving into the next season?
I think it's a big deal.
Like, isn't oh shit? Like, damn man, I kind of just got called out.
I mean, I feel like you should feel bad about it,
Brandon.
Yeah, like again, I'm not. If he hurt, he hurt. But if it's something minor where your teammates feel like you can step through, you know what I'm saying? And especially when you see you got a guy who had a torn labrum, played through it. A guy Larry who had multiple injuries throughout the season, you know, did his damnedest. And, you know, we to be honest, like I killed CJ often.
So did I.
I killed Larry often.
But you killed them for their performance. I understand the injuries affected that. But it was still the right thing to do.
I killed him because, okay, and this is my thing. I respect you playing injured, but I think you got to adjust your style of play during the injury. And he was still, you know, being CJ when he really have all the tools in his tool set. And that's the real reason. I would, you know, kill him. You know what I'm saying? Like, other than that, like, yo, I totally respect you going out there and giving everything you had. I don't know, man. Like Christian said, Griff was he was a grease pig. Like Griff's slippery, and I like to refer to him as a used car salesman just because like he could get out of a jam. And the thing is, like, we talking about Brandon's toe injury. We don't even know what it was classified as. It came out as one thing, it got reassessed to something else, and then, you know, it got called something else in the end. And then we don't know what happened with Zion's setback. I wanted to ask Christian about that, and I literally just thought about it. And I'm
gonna say,
I know. I just can't say publicly.
Chaz, what are your thoughts on the teammates being frustrated?
I'm not surprised. Again, we heard about this and heard about more than teammates being frustrated. And, you know, Griff at the end of the season presser, you know, he was stealing my rhymes, talking about if anybody's going to say you can't make the club in the tub, it's JV. It's like, Griff, you're stealing my rhymes, brother. At least shout me out. So I think, and we heard about JV being frustrated, you know, during the season with how
he was. And I think he was. He was pretty vocal about it too in the locker room.
So this isn't something we're really surprised about to hear, you know. And see, if it was just this year, if it was an isolated incident, me personally, I'd be more than happy to give Brandon the benefit of the doubt. But we heard about this dating back to last year. And that was the issue, because in Christian's article, he mentioned the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He didn't just say it was this
year.
year.
He did.
So he said it was the last 2 years. And, you know, and that's stuff we know, you know, Zion goes to Portland. Other people, you know, they do their thing sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Other people be disappearing sometimes. Sometimes you need a little sabbatical. And but to be honest, truthfully, again, it's about the asset at the end of the day. You have a rapidly depreciating asset as far as contractually, and you have a guy who's entering a 5-year deal with no options, who's younger, who objectively, depending on how you feel, may be a better player, maybe a better floor raiser for the team. I think you just got to get that element out of the locker room.
And Chaz, I was you're really intelligent with the contract situation in the cap space, but I'm pretty sure Zion's first 2 years, I think they're like, I don't know, so I think he gets like fully guaranteed, but after 3, 4, and 5, I think it's a team option and he has no option. Is that correct? I think I read that off Bobby Marks, and don't quote me on it, but it's something along the lines of like, it's very team friendly.
Yeah, it's
years 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, honestly, I think Zion's agent did a very questionable job.
I don't know how much.
How much leverage he got. I think Zion bet on himself a lot with that contract, and again, I rather count on a guy having a Joel Embiid, type Phoenix rising from the ashes type thing.
Yeah.
Versus this is a perpetual issue, and it's not just because it's words matter. It's an attitude issue, right?
It's got a really good attitude. I've watched some film. Scoot.
Yeah,
Closing.
Scoot, I got attitude. Dude.
Closing.
Do the dog.
Closing thoughts, Lito. Fire Nelly. I'm sorry. Reassign Nelly. Fire Nelly.
We don't know. We don't know.
And I thought it was interesting about Casey Hill, but 2 big moves this week. What are you back on board? Are you like, have you seen more changes?
Why are there no clear answers?
Has there ever been a clear answer since Griff's gotten here?
That's not a problem. Like, I feel like that's crazy. Like, I'm asking you like just a yes or no question, and you telling me about your cousin around the corner with a bake sale. Like, I just want to know, is Nelson still on the staff? Is Casey Hill fired? That's all I need to know. Are you happy about the moves? I'm happy about
Nelson,
Borrego. I'm happy about Borrego for sure. I think that's an upgrade. I mean, it's about to diss Casey Hill. I think it's an upgrade, and I feel like any offensive mind to add to Willie's assortment of coaches, like, it'll help. That was the only move made. I mean, technically that was the only move made so far. So yeah, I mean, I love it. Keep doing it. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited to see, how that plays out.
Yeah.
Moves around it. Yeah.
Chaz, what are your thoughts for the last week?
I felt like it was a little late in the offseason for me. I would have liked, especially since you got a guy who's not coming from one of those playoff teams.
Can I cut you off? I'm gonna cut you off. I think they were waiting on Borrego because I think Borrego's actually in one of the runnings for.
Oh yeah. I think Milwaukee as well, right?
So that's why I think it was late with Borrego. But go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin Ollie. Go ahead, Lito. What'd you say?
No. I was just gonna say, I mean, as we doing this podcast, Sam Cassell just got hired to
who?
Sam Cassell. He just got hired to the Celtics as an assistant of the Missoula.
Ooh, that's nice.
Dang.
That's
so
nice.
He left the Clippers.
Yeah,
that's real nice. I like that. That's gonna be good for them. That's gonna be good for them. Yo, yeah. Hold on, Justin. Don't say nothing we ain't supposed to say, Justin. Hold on.
What you mean?
But nah.
Yeah, Chad said that.
What?
Yeah, Justin on that Merlot.
Brother, it's hard knowing.
But no, I think I like the move. Give Willie some support. Guy with head coaching experience. Hopefully we see the buy-in from the players. And with Nelson, man, again, a guy doesn't just go from being this world-renowned, guy to he comes here and now he has no idea what he's doing. Now he's Dr. Kevorkian. So, I think there's some nuance to that because again, these two players, man, tail wagging the dog. So need some buy-in to whoever takes over the medical staff and whoever joins the coaching staff.
And I'm glad you meant. Oh, wow.
One more. I just got to. I'm gonna let you get to your point. Right? I needed you to see. Yo, listen. The medical staff. The restructuring of the training staff happened, but is the hospital still the same?
Oh yeah, it's still on MLK Boulevard. It's still gonna be one of those.
So I mean,
like King County, don't have organ donor on your ID. They gonna let you die.
Listen, man, I'll say
with a headache, leave with a hole in the head.
Yeah,
I'll say this. It's on Brandon's eye on him moving forward. All right, like you got Stan fired.
Who got Stan fired?
Brandon.
Might as well say it now.
Aaron Nelson's gone. You got a new offensive coach. We gotta see results. Gotta see results. But this is a big year for Griff, Brandon, if he's there, and Zion.
And Willie Green.
And
Willie Green.
Like, comment, subscribe. Love to hear your thoughts. Chaz, I wish you would warn me when you do these things. Like, comment, subscribe. Love to hear your thoughts. Presented to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of Boot Crew Media. Also, shout out Company Burger, located at 4600 Ferret Street, and the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Propels Talk. We will see y'all either Tuesday, Wednesday, and then next Sunday night.
Scoot to the boot.
Brandon, come back.
Got y'all screaming now.
Brandon, come back. Prove Chaz wrong.
Thanks, Christian Clark, for joining the show. See y'all later.